Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Sassy Joe, and today, since my top 10 best Sonic games video did very well, I have decided to rank my top 10 worst Sonic games. Sonic has had a lot of good games, but he also has had his fair share of bad games as well. Just like my top 10 best Sonic games, this list will have no crossover games and no spin-off games. This list is restricted to just Sonic games released throughout the years. And here is my list of the top 10 worst Sonic games. To kick off this list, I actually have a shocker for y'all. Most people would rank this game as possibly the worst, but I actually can name 9 other games that are worse than Sonic 06. Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 is number 10 in this list, and let me explain why. As much as this game nearly killed the franchise, I actually slightly enjoyed playing it. The story wasn't as bad as people made it out to be, and I really loved playing as Silver. Sonic 06 is only on this list because it is known for its infamous glitches, such as the snowboard stopping in White Acropolis when you play the stage as Sonic, and of course how the Sonic vs. Silver boss battle is nearly unbeatable, but I somehow was able to get an S rank just because I ran around constantly. Not many people know that tactic, and don't even get me started on the mock speed levels in Sonic's story. However, one of the best things about Sonic 06 was the soundtrack. His World and Dreams of an Absolution are absolutely bangers. I understand that Sega was trying so hard to compete with Nintendo, but sometimes it's best not even to try copying some of Mario's biggest hits. For example, Mario Party is one of the best games in the Mario franchise. Sonic Shuffle for the Sega Dreamcast takes the number 9 spot because it is basically just a Mario Party clone. Instead of using dice, you had cards, and it just looked very confusing. I barely played Sonic Shuffle, but it was very bland, and it was obvious Sega was just trying to make their own version of Mario Party. Many people think Sonic Adventure was the first 3D Sonic game, but that is not true at all. Most video games transitioned well from 2D to 3D in the mid-90s, like Mario, Metal Gear Solid, and Final Fantasy. Sonic, however, did not transition well at first, not until Sonic Adventure, 2.5 years after the first 3D Sonic game released for the Sega Genesis and the Sega Saturn. And at this point, I think y'all know which game I'm talking about. Sonic 3D Blast had a horrible level design, and the controls are very slippery. Sonic was just difficult to maneuver in this game. It was a cool concept capturing Flickies and rescuing them from Robotnik, but this game could have been so much better. What exactly is Sonic known for? Going fast, right? I mean, one of his catchphrases literally is, "Gotta go fast." What was Sega thinking when they decided to make Sonic slow in Sonic Labyrinth? Sonic Labyrinth had a pretty bad level design, and his slow mechanics make the game almost unplayable for the Sega Game Gear. Sega has tried to clone Mario Kart numerous times since Mario Kart is one of Nintendo's most popular series of games. Instead of using karts, you had to race on foot. Creating a game where you had to foot race to the finish makes sense, since it's Sonic for crap's sake, but Sonic R really didn't receive well. The soundtrack was fire though, especially with songs like Can You Feel the Sunshine and Supersonic Racing, but the controls are very slippery, and that is what makes this slightly unplayable. Most Sonic games on the Sega Saturn are what make the Saturn the worst console of that generation. Between that, the PS1, and the Nintendo 64, but the Saturn still wasn't all that bad. Alright, here we are at the top 5. Now, I just want to say Sonic Riders is one of the most underrated Sonic games of all time, and as good as the first game and Zero Gravity were, sadly, Sonic Free Riders was a huge letdown. My only issue with Sonic Free Riders is the fact that you can't use a controller. When Microsoft launched the Kinect for the Xbox 360, they were trying so hard to mimic the Nintendo Wii's motion controls, but the Kinect sensor was unfortunately a huge flop. You even have to select your character and navigate through the main menu with your hand in front of the Kinect sensor. What if your arm gets tired? If Sonic Freeriders was playable with a controller, it could have been one of the best Sonic games, but the fact that Sonic Freeriders is only playable with the Xbox 360's Kinect sensor, that practically ruined the entire game. And that was just a huge disappointment, like probably one of the biggest disappointments in Sonic's history. Released for the PSP back in 2006, we got Sonic Rivals. This was a game where you had to foot race to the finish and beat a specific character. The story was bland, and so was the gameplay. The soundtrack also sucked. We got nothing good out of Sonic Rivals. Also, the mechanics were very slow, and it just made the game unfun to play. At number 3, I'm gonna cover a particular series, but for number 3, I'm only listing one game in this series. Sega decided to create a new environment for Sonic back in 2014, along with character redesigns, which were doggone awful. Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric takes number 3 on my list for various reasons. As good as the show was on Cartoon Network, the game on the Wii U was pretty lame. The cutscenes were unfunny, and the designs just weren't it, especially with what they did to Knuckles. Why does Knuckles look like he's on steroids? Not to mention that Sega didn't even develop this game. They let Big Red Button develop this game, who is known for developing games like Ratchet & Clank, Jak and Daxter, and Crash Bandicoot. This style worked for gameplay. Like, this style of gameplay worked for those games, but it really did not work well for Sonic at all. At number 2, I'm pretty sure a lot of you might disagree with me on this one, but I really have to say that Sonic Lost World was a pretty bad game. The storyline was horrible, the Deadly Six are some of the worst characters in the entire franchise, and Sonic Lost World is just a crappy clone of Super Mario Galaxy. Sonic is just unfunny in this game, and teaming up with Eggman against the Deadly Six just to betray him in the end was just dumb. I didn't enjoy not one bit of the Wii U version, and I despise the 3DS version even more, since the gameplay felt just as enjoyable. By the way, there are no honorable or dishonorable mentions for this list, so let's just get straight to the number 1 spot. What could possibly be the worst Sonic game of all time? Let's just say that Sonic Forces was a huge letdown. I was so hyped for Sonic Forces when it came out in 2017, but the story was very short. It was cool at first, making your own custom character, but the gameplay for your custom character was pretty bland. Sega introduced us the Wispons, which was a tool for your custom character, and that was a tool that they would use to get around the level and defeat enemies, and the Wispons would represent the Wisp from Sonic Colors. Did we really need the Wisp to come back after Sonic Colors? Did we even need Classic Sonic to come back after Sonic Generations? What was the purpose of some of these bosses we saw, like Chaos from Sonic Adventure or Metal Sonic? We never see them in the game. Were they just there to look cool? Not to mention that Infinite is one of the worst villains in the Sonic franchise. He's just a copy of Mephiles from Sonic 06. But at least Mephiles nearly killed Sonic without saying anything. Infinite only became a villain because Shadow called him weak. That's actually pretty pathetic if you ask me. Also, go ahead and give me hate on this take, but Sonic Forces soundtrack isn't even that good. At least Sonic 06 gave us a good soundtrack. Fist Bump is such a mid-song. As much as I love Sonic, Sonic Forces is by far the biggest letdown in the history of gaming. So, there you have it. That is my list of the worst Sonic games of all time. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think are some of the worst Sonic games you've played? Do you agree with my list? What would you change? Just let me know in the comments below. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. If you liked it, please drop a like below. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more content. This is your boy, Sassy Joe, signing out. Have a nice day.